Motion carries. This time, we'd like to turn to the 2016 Legion Emeritus Louis Yavner Teaching and Citizens Award. And through the generosity of the late Regent Emeritus Louis Yavner, who served on the board from 1975 to 1981, and his family, we recognize the accomplishments of a teacher and a citizen who have made outstanding contributions to teaching others about the tragic and inhumane lessons of the Holocaust and about human rights. This year, we honor the 29th teacher and 25th citizen who, through their actions and words, inspire others to learn more about the millions of people of all faiths and nationalities who suffered and perished during the Holocaust. These individuals encourage the appreciation of human rights, the practice of tolerance, and continue learning about human rights violations. The recipient of the Teaching Award is Matthew Rozell. Is he? Matthew, thanks. Welcome. Matthew Rozell is a teacher in Hudson Falls High School, and at this time I would like Regent Butterkirk, would you please confer the 2016 Louis E. Yavner Teaching Award on behalf of the Board of Regents.
It would be my pleasure. We honor you, Matthew Rozell, as the 2016 recipient of the Louis E. Yavner Teaching Award for your outstanding contributions to teaching about the Holocaust and other violations of human rights. Matthew is a teacher in Hudson Falls High School, as we know. You have demonstrated commitment to teaching about the Holocaust and history which extends beyond your community. In your efforts to make history more meaningful to your students, beginning in the late 1980s, you sent home a questionnaire to your students to find out if the students had grandparents who had served in World War II. That Living History project grew from one where you and your students interviewed veterans and encouraged them to tell their story, and typed transcripts of those interviews to a robust website. The Hudson Falls High School World War II Living History Project. One story from Carol Walsh, the grandfather of one of your students, told of two tank commanders who had found a train with 2,500 emaciated prisoners from the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. On April 13th, 1945, the other tank commander, George Cross, had taken photographs of the liberation of those survivors. By posting these images to the internet, survivors recognized themselves and reached out to you. Your students continued research through the internet to locate additional survivors and veterans. This gives me goosebumps. This resulted in a 2009 reunion of veterans with the survivors hosted at your school, where students had the opportunity to hear their stories firsthand. News coverage of this reunion by ABC television resulted in you and your students being recognized for your efforts by earning the ABC Person of the Week honor, as well as broadcasting the information worldwide. Since that time, almost 300 survivors of that train have connected with their liberators at the reunion hosted throughout the world. A former student, Cassandra Kelleher, I'm not sure about the last name, writes that your teaching style, quote, draws connections to the past in a manner that invokes in students a sense of responsibility, we all have as global citizens. His lessons still inspire me to work to make a difference in the lives of others. His living history projects create excitement. Thank you so much, and it is my pleasure to hand to you this citation and this check. And it just gives me a thrill to award this to you today, to think of all that you created for your students that I'll never forget, and it continues to expand. Thank you so much.
Would you like to come up and share some words with? Thank you. We're all giving you our seats.
Thank you very much for this honor. If you had asked me almost 30 years ago if I'd be down in Albany sitting at a Board of Regents meeting, I don't think I would have believed it, but this is quite an accomplishment in my career. I'm here today with my building principal, Mr. Jim Benefield. He's joined me from Hudson High. My lovely wife, Laura Rozell. Give a wave, honey. Laura is also an educator. She teaches at South Glens Falls High School. She's in her 33 years as a special education teacher. And we met at college out in SUNY Geneseo many moons ago, and I brought her back home to my hometown where I teach. And my good wife is retiring next month. So thank you, honey, for all your service to the students of the state of New York. My daughter Emma, just give a wave. Thank you. She's the oldest. She'll turn 21 on Sunday. I never had Emma as a student, but she's here with me today, and I love it. We have two other children, Ned and Mary. Ned's a senior at the high school, and Mary's a sophomore, and they are both my students, and they are stuck today at school. So, and my good friend Susan Winchell-Sweeney, who works over at the State Museum, also doing it. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I have to tell you that I've spoken to many Holocaust survivors, and I know time grows short. I've spoken to American soldiers who were liberators, and I had the opportunity to bring them both together while they were still alive. Many of them have since passed. The two tank commanders that I first interviewed, they passed on, but they got to meet the actual children that they liberated on April 13th, 1945. It was a transport from the exchange camp at Bergen-Belsen. It was one of 3 transports that left shortly before the end of the war. And the people on this train were lucky in that the Americans got to the train before they were murdered. And I am working on a book. I have a website. It's called Teaching History Matters. Pretty easy to remember if you want to check it out. But I'll just leave you with this photograph that you can see on the website. This is a colorized version of the actual liberation, the moment that these people were liberated. It's a very, very dramatic photograph, and it's caught the attention of many people on social media. Just a couple weeks ago, it had 10 million views. So there's a huge story behind it, and I'm working on a book. I think I mentioned that, but these individuals, that's the thing. We have to remember the victims of the Holocaust as individuals, as people, not just numbers. And as I speak to these survivors and I hear these stories of really what sound like miracles of their survival, it's totally incredible. On some level, I think that there are no coincidences, that somehow there was some kind of a cosmic force that brought these children to meet their liberators 70 years later. So it's a very powerful story, as you can imagine, and the students have been so incredibly moved. And, in hearing the survivors' testimonies and the liberators' testimonies, they realize that now they have a responsibility to educate future generations too. I mean, they're the new witnesses is what it comes down to. So as my student Cassandra mentioned, it sticks with these kids. And, I'm at the point in my career where I have to look back and see, okay, what did I accomplish, or what did we accomplish as a group of educators at our high school? Because it wasn't just me, it was other people who were involved too. But to have the opportunity to have not one, not two, but 13 reunions in 3 different countries, it really makes you wonder if, my first year of teaching, when I was struggling and thinking about leaving the profession, I didn't. And I came home because I couldn't find a teaching job in Western New York, where my wife was already settled, had a great job. I brought her back home with me. A job opened up in my hometown, and I happened to sit down with this tank commander from my hometown, and look at where we are today. So I want to thank the board for this great honor, and I want to thank the survivors and the liberators for telling their stories. Thank you.
A real love story. I could see her beaming as you were speaking. Okay, the next recipient of the Louis Yavner Citizen Award. Now, this is interesting. It's Elazar, but I kept looking at Ilya. Elazar Ed Lessing. As a hidden child in Holland, he and his family survived the Holocaust. Now, he has been sharing his story of survival with teachers, students, and audiences. I'd like at this time, Regent Johnson, if you would please confer the 2016 Louis E. Yavner Citizen Award to Elazar Ed Lessing on behalf of the Board of Regents.
Thank you. Are you here? Yeah. Would you come up?
I'm going to let him
Get this. I'm going to put this.
Yeah, but I'm going to let him sit.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Yep.
You want to sit in here?
Yes, please. Actually, you may want to do this every month.
Have a seat.
You're going to read all
I'm going to read. Yes, I am.
May as well sit.
This is a very special story. We honor you, Ed Lessing, as a 2016 recipient of the Louis E. Yavner Citizen Award for your outstanding contributions to teaching others about the Holocaust and human rights. Ed Lessing, as a hidden child in the Netherlands, you spent 2.5 years hiding from the Nazis after they took control of your country. During much of that time, you were separated from your family and lived in fear that you would be captured. Living as a Christian farmhand, and then later in the forest with members of the Dutch resistance, your survival story is unique. You were later reunited with your mother, father, and younger brothers. After the war, you married Carla, another hidden child, and lived and started a family in Israel. 5 years later, you immigrated to the United States, went to Pratt Institute to obtain a degree in industrial design, while your wife pursued her education as a social worker, and you settled in Hastings-on-the-Hudson in Westchester. After attending the first International Hidden Child Gathering in New York City in 1991, you decided to share your story with students, educators, and the community through your work with the Shoah Foundation, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, the Hidden Child Foundation, and the Speakers Bureau of the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center of Westchester. For over 20 years, you have spoken to thousands of public, private, and parochial school students. Ed Lessing has an amazing ability to connect with adults and with adolescents. That is why he achieved both an outstanding contribution in education about the Holocaust and reconciliation between victims and the offspring of their perpetrators, commented a teacher at the German International School in New York. The Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center has incorporated your story with artifacts, together with those of 5 other Westchester survivors, in a 4-part documentary, Testimony of the Human Spirit. Additionally, your narrative appears as the prototype in the Holocaust Survivor Legacy Project, which serves to record the oral history of Lower Hudson survivors. Through your willingness to share your experiences, young people for many generations to come will be able to hear the story of a young man's survival. It is therefore with pride and great pleasure that the Board of Regents honors you, Ed, as a 2016 recipient of the Louis E. Yavner Citizen Award for educating others about the Holocaust and the violation of human rights. Did you know my friend Georgine Hyde?
Who?
Georgine Hyde?
No.
No. Okay. She was also a survivor. Congratulations. We're so pleased for you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Regents, this is, in a sense, totally unexpected. I didn't ask for this, and you know what's really amazing? This is just about 70 years ago. I traveled to Albany and a little bit further to Schenectady. I got off the Greyhound bus and walked over to the General Electric factory where in Building 31, the induction motor division, I got my first American job as a tool maker. And here I am 70 years later being honored in Albany. Who could have expected this ever? I was the kid who went to BOCES, to trade school. I was what you said in Yiddish is Schande, So thank you, W. It's really wonderful. In speaking, this is really, in speaking which I slowly developed, I found after a while that just telling the story of the Holocaust to students wasn't really quite enough. Stories that were 75 years old now, somehow I felt had to be connected to something in their lives. There's so much going on, there's so much distraction. So the answer to that came one day when I was speaking in a school to 8th grade students in New Jersey, when one of the students said, Mr. Lessing, is there anything you can say to us that is not so terrible? Is there anything good that came out of the Holocaust? And I thought a little bit about it, and then I found the answer. I said, you know, there is something good that came out of the Holocaust. The rescuers. The rescuers, I said. They're always rescuers. People who put their lives on the line for us to save us. I said, they're always rescuers. To bring it a little bit up to date, I said, September 11, 2001, 300 firemen, policemen, and others rushed up in those buildings to save those who were burning up above them. And when those buildings collapsed, they died with them. They were rescuers. I said, they're always rescuers. If you ever go to Israel, there's a museum. It's called Yad Vashem. It's in Jerusalem. And there's a great way you can walk outside under a nice couple of rows of trees. And under each tree, there's a little metal sign with the name of a person, not Jewish, who have put their life on the line to rescue a Jewish person in need. And I said, those people have gotten a beautiful name. The state of Israel is giving them a beautiful name. They're called the righteous among the nations. I think that's a beautiful title, I said to them. As you grow up, remember, try always, maybe you could remember, try always to be maybe one of those righteous among the nations. I said, please, remember, there's a lot of evil. There's a lot of terrible, terrible evil in the world. I said, these days when I pick up the newspaper or a tablet and I see the headlines, they seem almost it almost seems to me that I'm back at the time of Hitler. Rape, murder, abductions, millions of people losing their homes. It's terrible. So I said to the kids, I said, this is your time. The Holocaust was my time. This is your time. Try and remember. Try to help. Always, and this is my last line, always be a helper, never a hater. Thank you. Thank you very much.